Hello and welcome to This Naked Chat, a podcast where six friends from different walks of life come together for honest, unscripted conversations about living alcohol-free and everything that comes with it. We all met at a live event hosted by Annie Grace of This Naked Mind in March of 2024. What started as a mastermind group with the six of us and Annie turned into some really deep friendships, filled with connection, tough conversations, and a lot of laughter. And after a year of growing and learning together, we realized that these conversations might help more than just us. So here we are, no scripts, just real talk. We are incredibly grateful to Annie and This Naked Mind for helping us get this off the ground and for the impact that her work has had on each of our lives. I am Brian, and I am joined by Kori, Agnes, Judi, Jenie, and Sammie. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone.
Hi,
Hello, Brian.
Welcome to,
Hi.
What are we on? Episode, what's this say? 17. Good
Holy
job.
Shit, that's
I know,
amazing.
right? I know. Same hat,
Magic hat.
different readers. So let's see what this says. I have come to the realization that I have moved up to a number 2 in my prescription on all of them. My ones are worthless now, or my 1.5s.
I got contacts last week, and my eyes are transiently better. Apparently.
Interesting.
Isn't it?
I like it. This says AA, CA, NA, and all the others that are available.
And what about them?
Yeah. What were we?
So that was me. I threw that one in because I guess to have about all the different options that are out there, because I didn't know about Cocaine Anonymous. Obviously, we know of AA. So just basically what I didn't understand what it was all about until I started speaking to people that were a part of those groups and what the difference between all of them was. And I guess just having a conversation around that, what your experience is or what you are aware of. So for instance, AA, I know is very regimented. So they have specific things, you got to follow it. Where I spoke to somebody who's in the CA, the Cocaine Anonymous one, and a lot of people that were in the AA have transferred over to the CA because they felt like everyone was inclusive and whatever your beliefs are when it comes to spirituality or anything else, it's all allowed. And whereas with AA, it's, you shouldn't be around alcohol. So you shouldn't be around people that are drinking, that type of thing. And I guess it's just a conversation of what does that all mean? What have we heard about it? What do we know about it? Because everyone has a totally different experience about it all. I have not been a part of any of those, so I really don't know.
Yeah. I think that's a good topic too. And I don't know about you all, but like when I stopped drinking, I had a lot of people reach out to me over the years. There were many of them that were like, I think there is that misconception, misperception, whatever that is, and even doctors, right, will direct people, especially around alcohol, straight to AA. And there are now, which is wonderful, and Sammie's probably maybe the expert on this, given your line of work, but like there are a lot of options out there for people that didn't exist years ago, right? It seems like, even from an alcohol standpoint. And again, I haven't had that much experience with many, but I've enough.
I mean, I would say certainly for the alcohol piece, there's something called Smart Recovery we have over in the UK. I don't know if you have that over there, and
we do.
That's sort of so that's kind of an alternative for people that don't sort of resonate with the AA beliefs. They will often go to Smart Recovery, which again is another support group. I mean, my take is always, I say to people, listen, it's a support group, and they can be so different between the meetings. So I know some people that prefer sort of more of a structured and regimented meeting, and for others they'll choose a meeting which is less so, and that's all in AA. So different meetings will be different as well. And then certainly with the rehab, we have a OA that people go to, which is your Overeaters Anonymous. So that looks at food addiction specifically.
I can speak to, or are you all set? Sorry. Are you all set?
Yeah. No. I was just going to say every meeting is different. So I would just say try different things, because you don't know which one's going to resonate with you, and quite often I'll say to people, make it a day out. You can jump on a bus and go somewhere and have it. So it's not just going to a meeting. You can kind of incorporate it as a day out and go somewhere different and see what you find.
I can speak to 12-step experiences and also to a Buddhist-based experience called Recovery Dharma. The 12-step experience for me, over, I did it early years in person. The two meetings I went to were all physicians. And when I walked in the room of both, actually, my fundamental issue was gathered around a big table in both rooms. It wasn't the usual, audience facilitator or just a circle. And on the table in both meetings was the big book next to a Bible. And that really bothered me. But I stuck with it mostly for a while. I did most of the things, but I was only going through the motions because so much of it did not resonate for me and for the place I was in, which was already a whole lot of beating up myself. I tried again years later, totally different community, not physicians, blah, 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 and basically had a similar experience. So I walked away from that. When we were all in lockdown in 2020 and we were all learning to navigate Zoom, I discovered just a wealth of online meetings of all different programs, including Smart Recovery, like Sammie mentioned, which also was pretty resonant with me. But then I landed on Recovery Dharma. And the amazing thing about the online community is, it's not in person, but you can find a meeting any time of the day because they are international. And you can, as Sammie was saying, you can pick a meeting that you really like and return to that meeting in that community, or you can jump around and try different ones. The Recovery Dharma meetings also have a structure that's followed basically meeting to meeting. But then they have offshoots, with a book club or let's talk about this particular tenet of Buddhism as it relates to alcohol overuse, or there's all these subgroups, which I expect Smart Recovery also has. And I should also say, I have a coaching client right now who has used Al-Anon, like 20 years ago. And she did not know that there were online options. And she's nervous about returning to Al-Anon in her community because of anonymity, basically. She lives in a small town. And she has discovered like a door has opened for her with the online option. So that's pretty cool, because you can also, you don't have to name yourself on these online meetings. You can be anonymous if you choose.
I think I'm seeing that more and more. I worked with an organization for a while, as you all know, called the Phoenix, which pulls together a lot of online meetings, and you can really, like you said, I think the important thing, especially when I stopped drinking, right, I was like, well, this is the only way to do it. And what then you realize probably is like, I think it was maybe Sammie's point is go try them all or find the one that works for you, because it's almost finding your people and your message that's going to resonate with you. So I do love that, like I saw that with the Phoenix is like there's every different kind of meeting, including an all recovery meeting. And I've seen this. There's actually it's a giant church in Kansas City. And I've gotten to know their kind of director of recovery, but they do something really cool that's on Thursday nights. They bring everyone together, and I can't remember the order of things, but there's a dinner, and then you split off, and they have every single kind of meeting all right there at the thing. So you basically, this is a giant church, but a bunch of different classrooms. So you all come together and kind of share a meal or have it after. And then you go into your each, I'm looking at their website now. It's Al-Anon, AA, Codependence Anonymous, 12-step faith-based. For parents and everything that they have. And I just think that's such a cool concept now that the communities are becoming more welcoming. Because it used to be, early on in my journey, I know if it was like, especially from some of my friends that were in AA, if you didn't do it that way, it was wrong. And I think even them, they have started to come around to be like, oh, okay, yeah, find what works for you. It's kind of like exercise, right? If you do yoga, do yoga. If you're into some weird shit like Kori, do that, like running on trails in the dark.
It's the best,
Yeah.
It's I don't know what to tell you, Brian. You're just now, dysfunctional if you don't get into trail running.
I know.
I love the fact that like all of those models kind of are moving toward a little more inclusiveness. I know for me, like one of the things that whether it was AA or any of those 12-step programs. And I had been to not necessarily all AA meetings, but in that framework. And they would replace the term God and they would say, some power beyond yourself, right? Like, and try to like make it that inclusive. But I think the thing that at least I struggled with is this idea that you have to give yourself over to all of this, right? Like you failed. And so obviously you can't handle this and you need to give yourself over to, these 12 steps for you to, come out the other side of this. And, and so it really wasn't even this like religious thing, although that did turn me off. But even when we replaced God with the universe or whatever term you want, this like you must give yourself over. And that's the thing I feel like, what you're saying, Brian, is like that's so important to people is you don't have to give yourself over. You can like keep trying things until what feels right and what feels like it makes sense to you, because you're not gonna like fit a square peg in a round hole. You're not gonna keep beating your head against the wall and just like think that, like this is magically going to work for me. If I just beat my head against the wall a little more, I'll finally get sober. No, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to just keep trying until things like click for you, until you find a community that, feels right, that you find a methodology that feels right and give yourself some freaking grace. Like this is, there's nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you.
That's where I think, and Sammie, this would be interesting to get your perspective on this, but some of the times that I've seen people really struggle with, I guess whatever we want to call it, getting sober, or is when they just continued to stick with one methodology. And I've seen this a lot of times where it was maybe driven by whatever, the courts or parents or whatnot, where they're like, you have a problem, this is the answer. And they bounce from like recovery center to recovery center, but it's the same methodology. And I'm wondering, in a lot of those situations, and it's kind of like this conversation is people still probably today aren't aware that there are other options for whatever air quotes recovery, right? So
yeah,
I wonder.
we get some people that come through the criminal justice system,
mm-hmm.
and particularly if they've been in prison for some years, it is really difficult for them to kind of manage that rehab environment. And it's almost like because they've come from one sort of restricted environment, and they're coming into one that isn't as restrictive, and that is actually quite a difficult transition for them. And they tend to do reasonably well in the rehab, but they really struggle then when they leave. And unfortunately, quite a few of them, most of them, I would say, that come through end up back in jail, because part of their deal is that they still have to remain drug and alcohol free. And then that sort of being back out in the real world, if you like, is such a hard transition for them. So, and for some of them, that they feel safer in the environment that they knew, which is actually back inside the prison and having that restriction placed on them.
Well, because it's like we always say, right? Like the dysfunction, like whatever is causing you to use drugs and alcohol, if you didn't figure that out, then it's unlikely that you're going to stay sober, because you're just medicating to ease the pain of that situation. So it's like you said, Sammie, like, yeah, it feels safer in jail or rehab or whatever, because those other things are like alleviated. The thorn in your side is removed in those situations. And so it does feel safer to be in that environment than to be out there in the messy, crazy world. And that's painful and triggers you. And
and some people need, there are, I mean, I'm not so sure over in the US, but in the UK, we do have sort of different types of rehabs, which I think people are becoming more aware of. So there are ones that are 12-step, but there are ones that are more eclectic and kind of will be based more on sort of smaller communities and doing practical sort of daily living things, which suits people a lot of the time, because they find the other stuff quite overwhelming. So it's really looking at what somebody needs as a whole, as a person, rather than just going you need to go to rehab, go here. Yes. Because it makes such a difference to where you go as to what's going to help you. And if you've got resistance and you're fighting before you've even arrived because it's not really the right place for you, where you feel comfortable, it's really difficult for them.
I think for me too, I did recovery Dharma for a couple years, maybe just a tidge more than that, and it was very helpful for me, and aspects of it were very, very resonant for me. But I kind of outgrew it a bit, and I still felt like I was the one that was broken. And that's when I went to one of the 5-day challenges that Annie Grace puts on, and that's how I discovered the path. And immersing myself in kind of the emotion-based work I didn't know that that's where I needed to be, really. And recovery Dharma cracked that door open for me, for sure, for absolutely sure. But then I just I outgrew it. I kind of got a little bit bored. And then, spending a full year in the path was completely transformative for me. But I think it was, in retrospect, it was actually taking little bits of everything I tried on. Yeah. And then at a time when my brain had grown, just not to where I wanted to be, the universe sent me this way. And it was, I don't know that, in 2003, had the path existed, I would in no way, shape, or form have been ready or able. And I wouldn't have stopped with the path. So I don't know. I think the non-linearity of the journey is part of trying on different programs and like they say in AA, take what you need and leave the rest.
And I think it's really important I always say, no treatment or journey is ever wasted. There's always things to get from whatever the experiences that you've had. And it surprises, even for me, I'll have done something sort of from 15, 20 years ago in my nursing, and I'm like, oh, okay, that suddenly now makes sense to me. So it's just, for me, it's really about just trying to be open and keep that curiosity mind there, because you just don't know what's going to suddenly resonate and kickstart something,
So true.
So true. Yeah.
This episode is sponsored by This Naked Mind, a revolutionary approach to changing your relationship with alcohol. When it comes to your drinking, you don't have to hit rock bottom to want something different, and you don't have to do it alone. This Naked Mind blends neuroscience, psychology, and self-compassion to help you stop relying on willpower and start creating real, lasting change. No shame, no labels, and no rules. Whether you want to take a break, drink less, or stop drinking for good, This Naked Mind has a program that meets you where you are, with world-class coaching and a compassionate, judgment-free community to support you every step of the way. Learn more about This Naked Mind at thisnakedmind.com.
So it seems like we're moving, like this is moving in the right direction, it seems like, over the past few years, for more people maybe being able to get help.
For sure.
Yeah, I think certainly over here there is more out there now, certainly.
I think what it really comes down to is the community. That's the whole thing. It's the support, the community. It doesn't matter where you get it from, but that's really what it seems like we are all looking for, because again, as human beings, we need that connection, and to be somewhere where you feel that you are understood and heard, I think is amazing. And that's really what we're looking for, which at the same time, I can see how sometimes that's where, as human beings, again, we start comparing and we hear other people and their journeys. And then that could also bring us to a point where we're feeling like, well, that I'm not as far as long, or whatever the case may be, this isn't working for me. So it's really being aware of yourself, and even trying out all these different things. It's try out all the free ones, see what sort of works for you, and take it, and leave it. Because you don't have to stick with just that one that, we've always been told it's that one. And again, you know what? Sometimes it's like when the doctor tells you this is what it is. Well, you know what? Doctors are human beings. So they don't know what's going on in your brain and there's no way they could figure that out. So take it as guidance, and you've got to be the judge of yourself.
I'm sorry, Agnes, I'm superhuman. Just so we're clear.
I think that's a really good point, Agnes. And for me as well, just sometimes what works for you to start with, because you might feel, certainly for me, I had a real issue with trusting myself. I just didn't. So something more structured, like the path, was brilliant, because I had something to go to every day. I had work to do but it doesn't mean that needs to be what I do for the rest of my life. As I got more trust in myself, then I could, and I learned new things, then it's fine to move with that. You don't have to stick with it just because that's what worked to start with.
I think Kori brought up too, the really interesting part is, you do realize at some point that this is like a symptom, right? But there's no way I wasn't prepared to hear that when I stopped drinking, right? Like I had to. And it's funny because like when I stopped drinking, I was like, shit, everyone needs to do this. This is the answer. And then I find out a couple of years later, oh God, there's still a lot of work to do, because, I was still distracting myself. I just replaced alcohol with whatever, marijuana, and then exercise, and then whatever it is now. But it can be like the start of a wonderful journey. And like any of these options probably get you started, right? Because it's at least like that like self-awareness at least is like, is like, hey, maybe look here, is kind of all a lot of these are.
Because you're unlikely to figure out what the root cause is unless you are sober, right? Like you're not going to have, while you're medicated, your brain's not functioning to the level it needs to for you to finally figure it out. But
yeah.
But as human beings, we're always growing, and every
Ugh.
single experience is different, and that you can't repeat the same experience no matter what. There's no possible way. And again, that having that grace and compassion for ourselves, that, we're all normal and we can do this, whatever that is.
I don't think we're all normal. I think Brian is here as a testament to that.
Well, I was just thinking, I'm like, wait, this doesn't end? I was like, can't I solve this?
Well, it's funny because I was reading something the other day, and the person was talking about when you start to learn something, you kind of think at some point you'll learn enough and you'll be sort of an expert in that or what have you.
Jesus.
And actually, all it does is open more questions. You actually realize how much more you don't know, which is fabulous.
Right.
It's a never-ending journey, isn't it?
And that's the great way to look at it. I heard someone say that the other day, like, how fantastic, or something like you just said. Yeah. That's the right way to look at it. Sometimes I meet it with like such frustration of like, damn, I thought I had it figured out. And then a whole new path opened up that I was like, oh my God, what is this?
Yeah.
And there goes another 2 years of my life.
Yeah. Like, damn it. When am I going to get fixed?
Exactly.
Get fixed?
Oh God. Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I've had strong opinions on different methodologies, and they've softened over the years since I got further away from alcohol, to where it's like, whatever, man, like, find your thing. But here they all are. And that's what I think the problem was to begin with many years ago, is people just didn't know there were any other options than kind of the historical ones that might not fit them for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think your point about like being judgmental about, particularly AA or something, like, I don't care. I mean, if it works for somebody, that's great. I think though, I feel so protective of that new, person. And so I just feel like trying to beat them off, just like, hey, back off, let them, hey, they might arrive here. Just chill out. Let them like figure it out, like, don't be down on them. Just let them work on it.
Well, one of the things I think that came up for me with that was also I have a brother who's in AA, and we're not speaking right now. And he refuses to speak to me until I go through AA. Meanwhile, I've been sober for almost 2 years, and I'm in a great place. But again, that mentality, AA is it. You need to do this. If you don't do this, you are broken. You are the devil. Something has you, And then I was speaking to another lady that she's going through the CA, and her whole thing is she's so proud of herself because she's been to 2 meetings every week for the last year and a half. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, physically going to the meetings, actually, so not just Zoom, but it's like, you can feel or sense that fear, like, oh my God, if I miss a meeting, I'm going to screw up. And I think that's the part where it's like, you can't screw up. You didn't screw up. There is nothing wrong, but it's learning that trust, that
part,
that you can do this on your own. It's here, but not becoming, because in actuality, to me, that's an addiction, because now you feel like you can't live without this.
Yep.
So are you truly free? And that's where I question some of these programs. It's like, are they really learning to be they always say, like, even in therapy, you start, but if you have a good therapist, at some point you shouldn't have to go to a therapist. It's the same thing with these programs. And I just find that a lot, well, I shouldn't say a lot, I really don't know that many people in them, but again, the ones that I do know is they feel like they can't leave because they will fall right back into that. Right. And that's where all of this.
Or the like idea that if you did quote unquote relapse, the heap of shame that comes on you for, relapsing is just so sad. I mean, it breaks my heart to think about these poor people who've like strung together, maybe even hundreds of days. And then now, because, whatever all these circumstances came together for them to have a bad day. And yep, they went back to the same medicine that was effective for them before. And they used, and then this heap of shame, right? I got to start. I did, as if I didn't learn anything from all of that other time. And now I'm starting all over again. I mean, that's just not true. And it's so sad.
Yeah. Just to your point, Agnes, I think in terms of the meetings, for me, it's not a dissimilar thing when people say about using non-alcohol beers or not. It depends why you're using them, isn't it? It's
Great
that whole
point.
it's don't put all your eggs in one basket, isn't it? And it's trying to sort of navigate it so you feel safe whether you do or you don't go to a meeting. It's okay whether you do or you don't have a no alcohol beer, that's okay. And again, that comes down to you building that trust in yourself, that you are the best judge of you, that you actually know what's right for you. But it's just using all the different things out there to work that out.
And it's about taking your own power back, right? Because
Absolutely.
you've been giving your power. I gave my power over to a bottle of wine, and I got my power back and could make my own choices as to what's right for me. Yeah, I love that point, Sammie.
I think that's an excellent place to wrap up today, folks.
Hear, hear.
Good job. You're the best.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. If something we said resonated, made you laugh, or made you think, we'd love it if you share it with someone who might need it too. And if you're curious about going alcohol-free or just ready to feel more connected to yourself, check out This Naked Mind. Annie's work brought us all together, and we're so grateful for the impact it's had. On that note, a big thank you to Annie Grace and This Naked Mind for making this podcast possible. We'll see you next time on This Naked Chat.